afternoon, Africa, and of course today is Africa Youth Day. In front of you is a young, passionate person who is very much interested in youth development in Africa, and I'm very delighted to celebrate this day with my fellow Africans, and especially the young people who are out there watching us. Thank you so much for being a part of today's Africa Youth Day celebrations. We are celebrating young people all over Africa. We are celebrating the youth in Uganda, of course, where we are located at the moment. But at the moment, we continue to celebrate Africans, especially the ones who are in their youthful stages. So wherever you are and you're a young person, you are most welcome to the Africa Youth Day celebrations. And today, I'm going to have an exciting conversation that is going to unlock quite a lot of key areas that can help young people achieve most of the things that they want to achieve when it comes to their businesses, when it comes to even how they can develop themselves at an individual level. But today we shall discuss quite a lot. We are looking at how do we unlock the youth potential for economic growth in Africa. We know that the youth have the energy, the youth have the skills, the youth are very innovative, but how can we unlock the potential that they have, and then how can we increase economic growth in Africa by unlocking their potential? So to me, I'm delighted to be here with you. I'm your host for today. My name is Oyesje Clinton Liberty, the presenter for the Youth Business Loan Show here on Smart 24 TV, and I'm joined by very, 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 very invaluable people who have invaluable ideas, and today we shall have the opportunity to listen to what they have said. But just right next to me, before I introduce the people online, I have someone right next to me who is going to introduce herself. But you're most welcome. Thank you so much for being a part of this program.
Thank you so much, Liberty. Yeah. I'm happy to be here. African Youth Day is a very vibrant, very interesting, and a day worth celebrating. So happy Africa Youth Day to all the youth out there. For us, the youth who are leaving the bracket, but also for the young ones.
The young people.
The young people.
Yeah.
So my name is Joanita Masuna, and I work as a women lead, Ikoyaka. I am as well very passionate about this discussion because the youth and the women fall in the same category. In the same category under trade and economic development. They are both the marginalized category or the marginalized group. So it is always an important discussion to empower them to be at the forefront of these discussions, to be at the forefront of the #1 beneficiaries of this trade, because they're deserving. First of all, as we go back, I mean, the youth are the future of tomorrow. Everything that we discuss is for them. So they should be at the forefront of these discussions. Whatever agreements we negotiate, whatever policy interactions that happen at global level, regional level, national level, they should be part of these discussions.
Absolutely.
So that is why it is very, very important to have them part of the discussions. And as we celebrate Africa Youth Day, we have to remind the youth that, wake up. This is your time. This is your space. Some of us are phasing out of the space, but this is open space for you. Come and take it up.
Quite a number of opportunities. Thank you so much.
Many opportunities for you. So I work as a women lead in Ikoyaka. So Ikoyaka in full is the Independent Continental Youth Advisory Council on the AFCFTA. The AFCFTA is the African Continental Free Trade Area. So Ikoyaka is a continental chapter that works closely with the AFCFTA Secretariat. And our role is to advise the Secretariat about the challenges that the youth face as they participate, as they involve in trade, as they cross the border. And as the Secretariat, it is now their role to make sure that they create an enabling environment that will be supportive for the youth to enjoy, to benefit from the market that we are growing, from regional integration. So we have a number of programs as Ikoyaka, we carry out a number of webinars.
Actually, John, just to cut you short, before we continue to talk about your programs,
Yes.
I would like to introduce the people who are online with us. I would like to know if Ruben Tamba is present to talk to us today. Ruben Tamba, are you there with us? Okay. All right, Sita Sofo. We're expecting quite a number of participants today who will be joining us from Western Africa in Ghana and to talk to us about how can we unlock youth potential for economic growth in Africa. But still, we were still talking about your programs and especially how can the Secretariat create an enabling environment for young people.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, we have a number of programs, and one of where we are mainly focused, since this is a new subject, the market is new to everyone's ears, we are focused mainly on awareness creation. So we have a number of webinars, and they've been happening through the year, where we build, where we bring to the people, we make them aware of this market, break down the provisions, break down the policies in place of the agreement so that they can be able to appreciate it. Just having a conversation and them knowing that actually there is this new market that we can benefit from, but we have to participate in. So we are very mainly concentrated on webinars. We usually invite a number of experts who have been very focal in designing the agreement, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Now we are diving into mindset change, working closely with institutions. Mindset change. We want to engage.
How are you dealing with mindset change? Is it through mentorship programs?
Programs. We are working closely with institutions. We are looking at universities. It has come to our realization that trade is faced with a number of challenges. We see a number of trade conflicts, goods being rejected as they cross over to the different borders. And traders are lacking a place to seek redress. Where do they go in case they're faced with these challenges? So we are now having discussions with institutions. We have a program in place whereby we are working with the law institutes in different African countries as the continental chapter to bring to the awareness of lawyers, to interest them with trade law. How do they pick? Because we are lacking trade lawyers. You know, trade is quite technical. So you find that we have criminal lawyers and etc., but there's no one really interested in trade law. So how do we interest, since now we are phasing into regional integration, and these conflicts will be expected. How do we ensure that at least the issue of conflict and redress that happen while trading are addressed. So as well, we are looking as low as primary schools, whereby we talking to government to introduce in the curricula trade, have discussions on trade, so that as children grow up, they appreciate that actually you can, have a business, you can trade goods, you can carry out international trade. Having, a simple, a simple topic about trade in the curricula, so that the appreciation of trade starts as low as primary school. Because you see now, when we just look at Uganda, you'll find that 78% of the youth are below 30 years, and that's the biggest population. Our 78% of the population is actually youth below 30 years.
That's true.
So as we phase into the AFCFTA, it has just kicked off, but it is going to be there forever. How do we work on mindset change? How do we bring in appreciation? How, as we talk about innovation and entrepreneurship, do these people know that actually the borders are open and they can have interactions and collaboration with people not just within their countries but also outside the countries? So we want that sort of appreciation, and then in secondary schools and then at universities. So we want it to become very tropical. So we are very very targeted.
And I think actually in light with what you have said, Joan,
Yes.
just maybe, I'm sorry for cutting you short, but in light with what you have said, I think conversations like this are very important.
Yes, they're very important.
Because if we are to promote, the good work that the African Continental Free Trade Area is doing, then I think conversations like this and even including it in the curricula is very important.
It's very, very important because, even the African Continental Free Trade Area has been designed in a way that it is very inclusive and fair. So, to the extent that in February 2022, they agreed on a protocol that addresses the women and youth. So this protocol basically looks at this category of the marginalized. But even in this protocol, awareness creation and capacity building and appreciation is very focal. So that means that appreciation should be taught, should be learned in schools, as we speak about it, but also that youth being aware that actually they are the ones to drive this process.
Take charge.
Ahead. It's their role. Yes. And as well, this market is 90% private sector led. It's not for the policymakers who are behind the design of the protocols and the policy provisions. It is for them. It is for the normal person who is in a business to participate in. 90%, they own it. They own the market. So once that is brought to their knowledge that actually it is yours and it is your role for you to make it work, then that is where appreciation
comes in.
Yes.
Actually, this actually has opened my mind to something that is very vital, Joan. The African Continental Free Trade Area poses to have great opportunities for young people, and of course within the region. But maybe can you, what are those insecurities in the region that the African Continental Free Trade Area can deal with, especially when it comes to cross-trade between borders?
So, the world is under, now the world is a one global trade area. So the one world order, we are in globalization. But globalization mainly talks about opening borders, allowing free movement of goods and services. That is goods and peoples. So the movement of goods and peoples, the target of globalization is to bring about equality in participation, in benefits. But that is not what has actually happened. That's not what we see. We've seen it does not really speak to universality, it does not speak to equality, but we've seen growing inequalities. We've seen the West being the biggest player in global trade, but also we've seen the South, where we as Africa lie, are being more marginalized. So that means that the rich are getting richer because of the capitalistic nature of trade, and we Africans are getting poorer because we are the poor ones. So this market is being an instrument to avail the solution of the challenges of the poverty-stricken Africa. It is bringing in economic development. It is bringing in chances of us trading with each other. It's the biggest market, by the way. It is bringing in most of the...
I'm sorry to cut you short, Joan, once again. I've been told that I think our guests are online. I'd already communicated how we shall have amazing people who are joining us from West Africa, Ghana especially. Ruben Tamba, we shall be having the country director of African Continental Free Trade Area. We shall also be joined by Sita Sofo Hissan, the president of African Continental Free Trade Area Young Entrepreneurs Federation. We shall also be joined by Kwasi Ochere Boateng, who is the second deputy executive director for the African Continental Free Trade Area Policy Network, and Dode Seidu, who is the chief executive officer of the Africa Trade Academy. I think these are very, very invaluable people that who just split quite a number of ideas with us for young people. You're most welcome. Can I hear from Ruben Tamba?
Permit me, thank you so very much for this very, very important opportunity. I think your choice of persons this morning has not gone unnoticed. I want to congratulate you for having chosen those persons you have chosen for us to discuss youth participation in the African Continental Free Trade. Because for somebody like me, I am the man of the field, so I can give you real-time statistics on what happens as concerns youth participation on the implementation of the AFCFTA. So thank you so very much for having me, sir.
Let's hear from Sita Sofo Hisan. Sita Sofo, in case you're online.
Hope I'm audible. Good morning from Ghana here and good
Sofo, we cannot hear what you're saying.
Yes, that's the challenges with technology. Please, is it better now?
Yes, sure.
Oh, okay. I'm saying good morning from West Africa and then Ghana to be specific, and good afternoon to all those in East Africa. And then I'm glad to be here. We are happy and excited that today is Africa Youth Day. And then we are getting the opportunity and the privilege to join in the discussion and then also have the opportunity to wish our other African youth a happy African Youth Day. Thank you very much. My name is Prince Sita Sofo Hisan. I'm the president of the AFCFTA Young Entrepreneurs Federation. Thanks.
Nice to have you so much. Thank you so much, Sita Sofo. We shall be hearing from you. Please stay online. Please remember that we are live on Smart 24 TV, and whichever ideas we shall be sharing to the East African youth and all those that are watching us. So please keep online, and thank you so much for being a part of us. Let me also give an opportunity to Kwasi Boateng to introduce himself and tells us what he does. You're most welcome, Kwasi.
I'm very audible to all our viewers. Yes, and a happy Africa Youth Day to all of us. Thank you for having us here. This is a very important discussion. This is an important discussion that the rest of the world, the rest of the continents had long ago. Africa finally is here. We are thankful to be here, and we are happy to engage the youth and mobilize them towards the better Africa we've been speaking of for so long now. I'm Kwesi Ochubuatin, Second Deputy Executive Director of the After Policy Network Group. Thank you.
I don't know if Dode Seidu is with us online, but if you are, please, you have the opportunity to also introduce yourself. If Dode online with us, all right. We're expecting Dode Seidu to be a part of this conversation as well. We shall be waiting for him. When he comes, then we can join in. But for those who are online with us, we thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. You have taken some time to join us, and we cannot thank you enough for this opportunity. But I'll start with Sita Sofo Hisan. I am amazed by the work that you do, especially in Ghana and especially for the young people in Africa. I remember Sita Sofo while at the African Continental Free Trade Area Young Entrepreneurs Federation. You mentioned that Africa is the most youthful continent in the world, and it contributes about 3% to the world's gross domestic product. I think to me that's very important for young people to note, and this was something that you highlighted while giving your speech, Sita Sofo. And to me, I was amazed by that. What do you have to say about that, Sita Sofo?
Okay, thank you very much once again. Yes, Africa is the most youthful continent that we have in the world. We have over 450 million youths in Africa alone. And the question is that, what are the potential or what are the capabilities of the youth that we have in Africa? Because unfortunately, these youth in Africa are highly unemployed. They don't have opportunities and they don't have a very good environment to ensure that they're able to put their knowledge and potential into good use. So we are saying that since they've been telling us that we are the future leaders, and the question is that, when is the future? Because ever since we were young, we were told that we are the future leaders. Now we are about 35 years, and they are still telling us that we are the future leaders. When will we actually lead? Some of the questions that we have been asking. Therefore, we believe that this time we don't need to ask anymore. We need to come to the decision-making table with our own chest. The panacea to unlocking youth potential when it comes to Africa, because we've come to a time that we don't need to sit down, expect leaders to invite us into the decision-making. This is a time that we have to put that opportunities we need in order to. So it's very relevant, because I remember 2 months ago we were in at a program by the African in conjunction with FCFT parents, of which I was one of the continental members. We brought in this topic, which I also had the privilege of discussing on panel. How do we unlock the youth potential that we have in Africa? This is the new goal. I believe that the goal we're talking about in Africa is now the earth. The goal we are talking about is inside the head of the youth, is in our minds. And if Africa realizes the potentials that the youth possesses, then Africa will be on its way to when it's global, then leading. Are hearing me? I'm having some challenges with my network here. Thank you very much.
Very insightful contribution. And I think your role when it comes to uplifting young people is invaluable, Sita. We cannot thank you enough for the work that you're doing there in Ghana. And most importantly, you also mentioned that the African Continental Free Trade Area has the potential to lift 30 million people out of extreme poverty, but to achieve its full potential. All these were your insights and all these were your contributions at the Young Entrepreneurs Federation speech. And I think to me, those are quite very, very vital points that you raised. And to me, they're very, very, very insightful. So thank you so much, Sita Sofo. I would like to also hear from one of our colleagues online, who is Ruben Tamba. Ruben Tamba, let's hear from you. We would like to know what are those contributions you think that young people should be a part of, and how do you think the African Continental Free Trade Area can literally contribute to those young people who are in areas that have unfavorable economic conditions? Over to you, Robin.
Sir Andrew, I sincerely give gratitude for this very important program. Permit me also use this opportunity to wish all African youth, AFCFTA, and them know that we are beginning to see light. In Africa. The African Continental Free Trade is here, and we think and we believe that actually those who will be of this project. As you want to know, there are so many opportunities within the African Continental Free Trade. We are talking about intra-African trade and talking about intra-African trade. Practically, we need to have young dynamic on ground who are ready to hold the line. Because as you want to understand, I am a Cameroonian who have lived in Nigeria for 17 years. And it hasn't been an easy walk about. It hasn't been as easy forward. So we are those encouraging other youth in other African countries to understand that the time for the youth is now. It is now, and we have to put our energies together to ensure that the AFCFTA is implemented. If it's implemented, we are going to witness a reduced unemployment all across the continent. So we shouldn't be having youth today clamoring on unemployment, lack of job opportunity. There are many avenues where youths can come together, learn about CFTA, and see how they can actually cue themselves to themselves useful both for their society, both for their families, and for their country at large. So the AFCFTA actually projects a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities. Today might not be enough for us to spell out those opportunities, but we are very much open for those who think and come one or two advices or one or two directives. So thank you very much, and I remain open for any further discussion.
That was a very insightful contribution as well. I think I'll get back to my colleague here next to me in studio, who, of course, is a women lead for very many initiatives. But at the same time, we wanted to understand how can women, this goes to you, Joanne, who is also part of this conversation, that how can women be involved in small, medium enterprises? And how do we encourage more women to be a part of these conversations, but at the same time also take the courage to start their own startups and their own businesses as well? Yeah,
we have seen these discussions, policy discussions, not having the voice of the women and youth most of the time.
Yes.
But like I said, this market is 90% private sector led. When you cross to the borders, the Malaba borders and the ESC borders, you'll find that basically the whole continent, you'll find that the biggest participants are actually women who are participating in 70% of the informal cross-border trade. They use porous routes because they are trying to use the formal routes, trying to dodge taxes. So what is this? What is within this agreement that actually works or is going to be very supportive for the women and youth? You find that they're young women that are also, despite them being women, they're actually youthful women participating in this trade. They carry tomatoes on their head and then cross the border to sell them to different countries. So the African Continental Free Trade Area is actually allowing them to still to trade informally, but they use the formal routes. They can go through customs and they through procedures without paying any tariffs at the border, and they still trade. They don't have to use, they have faced a number of challenges with customs officials in a bid to avoid taxes and tariffs around. So it's creating that enabling environment. Then the other challenge is that we've seen these trade agreements not being participated by the youth and women. So they don't have their voice. In other words, so these policies come in place and they don't speak to the challenges and the needs of the women and youth. But now we have an agreement and that is availing the youth and women an opportunity to be part of the process, to be part of the shape, especially in their protocol, the women and youth, the gender protocol. So this agreement as well binds the customs officials to comply to the provisions within. That means once a woman who is trading informally, that is a woman without maybe a certificate, the AFCFTA guideline certificate to trade, once they go through the customs, even the customs officials are obliged to allow them to carry their products and trade them across the borders without fear, without choosing porous routes. But they don't know. They don't know, they are not aware. And that is why it is very necessary to build their capacities, to give them this information that, look, it's now okay. This new agreement is availing you the opportunity. We are around Africa working together. You're not supposed supposed to be stopped when you're coming to Uganda. It is okay, please feel free to trade. And that is the kind of enabling environment that will bring the confidence in the traders, in the informal cross-border traders, in the youth traders to enjoy the trade. We want to see an environment where people like what they're doing, enjoy the trade. So at the end of the day, economic development is realized. It starts with enjoying, being happy with what you're doing, and then it goes to compliancy, and then, you know, and everything will fall in place. They will comply to the rules and regulations, and as we grow into an Africa that we want.
Wow, thank you so much, Joanne. For those who are online with us from West Africa, I think this creates a good relationship between West Africa and East Africa, and I think that's why we're having this conversation, to see how best can we create an area where we can trade easily without any restrictions or even limitations. And that's why we're having this conversation, to see how best can we create a very good relationship with our people from West Africa. So on that note, let me hear from Kwasi Boateng, who is the second deputy executive, the director of African Continental Free Trade Area Policy Network. We want to understand from you, Kwasi, how can youth be included in the trade policy development, and especially how can young people be involved in the decision-making processes, because very many young people are left out when decisions and policies are being made, when the policy framework is being structured. The youth are not there to be included in decision-making. But I think it is time that young people are involved in decision making. Just like our colleague Ruben Tamba said, how long are we going to keep calling ourselves young people or future leaders, yet we do not recognize that the time is now. The time is now for young people. So Kwasi Boateng, over to you. How can the young people be included in the trade policy development?
Yes, thank you for the question. Involving the young people, first, we have to come to an understanding or an education on what the AFCFTA is. We wouldn't be in a situation where we want young people, but they do not know what the AFCFTA is. The first step is to educate and create an awareness on what the AFCFTA is a means to a greater end. The total end, or the ending result of the AFCFTA is that we hope for it to go from just a free trade area to a customs union, a common markets, a economic union, and a political union. That's the final goal. When Nkrumah talks about the United States of Africa, he's referring to a political union, which happens in stages. So the AFCFTA is the first step. When we talk about involving young people in policy making, it begins with creating an awareness of what the AFCFTA is. As my brother Sita Sofo said, over 400 million Africans today in between the ages of 15 and 35. What is the percentage of that knows anything about the AFCFTA? Even here in Ghana today, where the secretariat is based, walk into even the universities, ask the final year students about the AFCFTA. I bet you less than 25% would have even heard of what it is. So the first step is to create awareness, sensitize the youth to know what the AFCFTA is. That can be done especially through social media, because that's where the youth of today can be found. Social media, you find them on your X, your Facebook, everywhere. So before we can talk about policy involvement, we need to get to the youth where they are, social media being the primary place. After awareness has been created, it doesn't mean they know enough to make decisions on AFCFTA. After awareness, we must now focus on educating them, educating the youth on the AFCFTA. We have now come to live in an Africa which is becoming more interrelated state-wise. We are moving from state isolation to a regionally integrated Africa very slowly. Therefore, our education needs to become more regionally focused, so that in our secondary schools and our university, maybe even primary schools, we start to get an introduction into what regional integration is, into what the AFCFTA is, the purpose of the AFCFTA. Then we can know more about the opportunities of the AFCFTA. so that when we come to the point of getting youth involved at policy level, we know enough as youth. We now know enough. So the first thing is to create awareness, sensitization of the youth, and then educating them. Education of the youth is so key. It's so key before we can become policymakers, really. Presently, thankfully, we do have young people like my brother Sita, who are very well versed in the AFCFTA, who are doing many great things. And we need to support his initiative. We need to support groups like APN to go out and reach the 400 million plus. Because let's keep in mind that we have an Agenda 2063 in effect. The AFCFTA is one of the components of Agenda 2063. The youth of today will be the inheritors. They will be around in 2063 to account for what we have done with it today. The next generation will hold us accountable for what we did with that Agenda 2063. So we must get into the education and sensitization of the youth. Thank you, sir.
I think to me, Kwasi, that has been very insightful. And you have mentioned how we need to create awareness for young people to know about what the African Continental Free Trade Area is all about. And I think I agree with you on this one. We could be having this conversation even right now, but there are some young people who still do not know what the purpose is that the African Continental Free Trade Area serves to young people, especially. You have talked about sensitization, that is very key. I think to me, we need to also increase more initiatives when it comes to capacity building, but also that's very important. We talked about social media, using the social media as those digital platforms to disseminate information that concerns the African Continental Free Trade Area policies. But to me, I think I agree with you on this one, especially can we have Twitter space conversations about these policies. People lately, especially young people, are using Twitter, are using all these social media platforms to continue to have different conversations on different topics. So I think to me, we can use the same to ensure that we disseminate valuable information for young people to know about how can we have free trade all over this region. I talked about education, which is very important. My colleague here with me in the studio was really talking about how can we have this involved in our education curricula. And I think that to me is very, very important. I would like to involve Sita Soto again. Let me involve Sita, the president of the Young Entrepreneurs Federation. Sita Soto, let me listen to your thoughts on what are the potential benefits and opportunities that the African Continental Free Trade Area presents to the young people of Africa, especially on 3 areas. Can you cover the area of job creation, cover the area of entrepreneurship, and access to new markets? Those are some of the 3 areas that are still limiting young people. But we realize that the African Continental Free Trade Area has potential benefits and opportunities for young people. So, Sita Soto, please walk us through that.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And then I want to thank the other panelists. They've actually exhausted the topic. I'm actually learning a lot from the knowledge they are sharing with all of us. I just don't want us to limit, before I answer your question, I don't want us to limit ourselves to AFCFTA because we are talking about unlocking youth potential. And then AFCFTA is just 2 years old, and then we cannot put all our hopes, excuse me to say, in AFCFTA because what if it doesn't work out? So I'm going to answer part of your question, but also permit you to give you a general overview of what the African Union have with respect to the 1st of November being the African Youth Day. So first, let me go to your questions. Now, AFCFTA is opening up the borders of Africa for free movement of goods and people. But don't confuse the protocols for free movement with the Continental Free Trade Area. Now, the protocol for free movement is also set up by the African Union to ensure that African members or members from the African states are able to move within themselves easily without any issue. But then the Protocol for Free Movement has not seen the light of the day, because among all the 54 AU nations, only 4 countries have been able to sign up for it. And just last week, we saw the Kenyan president opening up Kenya and then saying that by the end of the year, is going to ensure that you have free visa if you need to come to Kenya from any of the African countries. Now, the African Continental Free Trade has received a lot of attention, because all the 54 AU nations actually signed on it, and over 44 members have actually ratified the agreement. Now, let me zoom down to youth entrepreneurship and job creations. Now, most of the African leaders have made it difficult for entrepreneurship to strive. That is the first thing that I'll establish, because governments in Africa are the major employers in Africa. Meanwhile, if you look at developed countries, the private sector is the engine of growth. So the government creates enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. Unfortunately, in Africa, it's really the opposite. Governments are the major employers, and governments are not making it easier for private sector to thrive. Now, for youth entrepreneurship, we don't need you to push out to go into entrepreneurship. You need to only create enabling environments for entrepreneurs to emerge. The youth, we will emerge. A lot of African youth, we are industrious, we are hardworking, we are energetic and ready to work. But the systems and regulations, the rules and regulations, how to access funding and other stuff is making us unable into entrepreneurship. So I will just draw this line. African governments are supposed to make rules and regulations easier for women and youth to go into entrepreneurship. Before we can even do continental trade, we have to start with national trade. So at After Young Entrepreneurs Federation, we've been working with the AFCFTA Secretariat and the African Union to ensure that we push for protocols that are good for women and youth. So somewhere last year, about a year ago, we were in Tanzania, and as you are all aware, Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, the president of Tanzania, is the AFTA champion for women and youth in trade. So we went there to discuss the draft protocol for women and youth in trade. Fortunately, last 2 months, that was August, we had a program in Zambia where we also contributed to the protocols for women and youth in trade. So first, AFCFTA is going to ensure that they hear from us and inculcate what we want into the protocol so that to make it easier for youth to do trade. Second of all, we're also looking at how the young entrepreneurs or the youth can be funded so that they can be able to now go into trade, because even within our various governments, the youth don't have access to funding. So how can they trade? Once they are educated and they are aware, but you don't have the money to, it will be difficult. So that is the next stage. So once entrepreneurship's environment is made conducive for women and youth, let me add women and youth because they normally go together. It will be easier for the youth to go into entrepreneurship. It will be easier for jobs to be created. It will be easier for people to be employed. That is just the basic thing. So now, it will also be easier for people to be able to move across the borders, honestly. And even talking about continental trade, that means you have to increase your production before you can even export. You know, if you are not able to certify your national people, you cannot talk about continental people. So all these things should be taken into consideration. That's why we're working with the African government, the AFCFTA Secretariat, hoping that once the protocols comes out early next year, we will see the protocols reflecting our opinions and what we the youth want. Now, beyond that, today being the 1st of November, we are all aware that it was in 2006 in Banjul that 1st of November was adopted as African Youth Day. And the main is to recognize the important role played by women and youth when it comes to the development of the whole continent. So the African, we're working with the African Union through the Director for Gender Youth Directorate in order to ensure that we are able to implement a project they call WYEFI, which is the Women and Youth Economic and Financial Inclusion by 2030. And that one is totally different from the AFCFTA, but it's a continental agenda by the African Union and heads of state that is ensuring that by 2030, about 1 million youth across Africa should be economically independent. And fortunately, by next week, I'll be speaking on a panel with team from the African Union, and we will take it as an opportunity to educate a lot of Ghanaian and African youth as to how they can join this project and become financially emancipated. Thank you very much.
So we wanted to understand, what about the area or the area of how do we access new markets? Because another area that is affecting young people is access to markets. These young people have their startups, they have their good innovations, they have their businesses, but then the challenge has been market for their products and services. How do we access new markets? How do we create a platform for them to access new markets? And are there any synergies that we can create when it comes to access to new markets, Mr. Sopho?
Okay, thank you very much. As Kwesi said, one, access to new market. We have some platforms that will give you access to new markets. The first point of call when we are talking about access to new market is awareness. Awareness, because, for example, if I'm not aware that in Uganda, opportunity for maybe IT business, I will not want to come and do my IT business in Uganda. If I'm not aware that I'm selling shea butter in Ghana here, Africa market needs my shea butter, I cannot go into the new market. So that is one. The first rule is that it goes back to the points that were raised by the earlier speakers, that we have to educate people, we have to inform, create awareness. Once we are aware of it, now the next thing is that how do we now access the new markets? Now, the second point of accessing new market is based on the rules and regulations. That is why I'm coming in saying that it's same to the protocol, the rules and regulations. How easy can an African youth move to another African country in order to trade? Mind you, I have had meetings with the richest black man in the world who happens to be the richest person in Africa. I've met some of the richest people in Nigeria, second richest person in Nigeria, fourth richest person in Africa. I've met, like, in terms of leaders, business captains, when it comes to the African business terrain. And I can tell you that whether we like it or not, people are doing business. Like Tonelu Melu, who owns United Bank for Africa, he has his banks in about 20 African countries. I work with EcoBank. EcoBank is a Pan-African bank. EcoBank has their banks in about 33 African countries. Dangote, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, who is the richest person in Africa, he already has most of his businesses across Africa. He's shipping his cement to different African countries. But when it comes to young people, we don't have the financial muscle. Being aware that they need, like as Ruben said, that he moved from Cameroon to Nigeria, but even settling in Nigeria for the past 17 years has not been an easy road. And as such, more youth like him cannot also take part in such ventures. So that is why I'm saying that, one, you are aware. Two, we have to make the protocols that are conducive for the youth to be able to enter into the new markets, so that they don't say that you are not a Nigerian, go to Cameroon. You are not this, go to this place. So that's the second point. The third point of all is to ensure that we give needed funding, even flight ticket. I have traveled to a lot of African countries, but in East Africa, I think I've been to Tanzania, I've been to Rwanda. I'm yet to come to Kenya and Uganda. I've been to Ethiopia as well when it comes to East Africa. But I'm saying that even cost of flight ticket in Africa is very expensive. So if I have my product in Ghana, I have had meetings with the group CEO for Ethiopian Airlines. And if you care to know, Ethiopian Airlines is the biggest airline when it comes to Africa. they fly into about 100 destinations across Africa. So I had a meeting with the group CEO and also the MD for Ethiopian Cargo. And I told them, see, we are working with the youth across Africa. The youth want to access new markets. They want to move their products across different African countries cheaply. Can we have an MOU with your airline so that you can reduce the prices for the products for our members? And they said, why not? Therefore, we are working on an MOU with the leaders of the Ethiopian Airlines to ensure that once you are a young entrepreneur, once you are a woman who want to sell your products across Africa, you come to the After Young Entrepreneurs Federation and you get cheaper freight charges for your products. Now, the next point of call we are talking with Ethiopian Airlines is that how can you also reduce airfares for the young entrepreneurs who are traveling purposely for trade? And they said we should bring the proposal. So we are actually working on that. But we are not only limiting ourselves to only Ethiopian Airlines. We want to talk to South African Airways. We want to talk to Kenyan Airlines. We want to look at the national carriers that we have in Africa. And then even Turkish Airlines, I'm supposed to have a meeting with them. So that all the players in Africa are also working coherently to ensure that we achieve these objectives. So access to new market is not just saying that I'm getting information that if you come to Uganda, if you have maybe the local clothes like I'm wearing, an African wear, you can just bring it to Uganda. There are a lot of regulations and some too financially. If they ask you to bring it to the market, how do you ship it from Ghana into Uganda? So for me, these are some of the bottlenecks, and I am optimistic that yes, with what African Union is doing is good, with what AFCFTA is doing is good, but also need the private sector to also come in to support the youth to actually access the private sector. And I'm going to end with this statement. We have a saying that when you go and tell the blind man about his mother's funeral, you are the one who will take him there. If you go to tell the blind man that the mom is dead, we have this saying from our hometown that who will take him there? He's blind, he cannot go for the funeral. You have to drag him there. So once we are telling the youth that you have challenges accessing new markets, and then we actually show you how to access new markets or which part of the continent they need your products, let me say that, or which products you can develop for other markets also, we have to see how we can support them to be able to achieve that. Thank you very much.
Hello, Mr. Andrew.
Thank you so much for that contribution, Sita Sofo. You have mentioned quite a number of areas. You talked about political enabling environment for young people. For those young people listening to us, I hope you're taking note of what these gentlemen are sharing with us today. He has talked about access to funding. He talked about how the youth need to work on a financial muscle that can help them, bridge that gap of funding and support their trade as well. You have talked about how we should narrow down from international trade and also focus on national trade. That was very key. Thank you so much for that. You have talked about how we need to increase the levels of production, and if we can do that, then we should have 1 million young people being potentially enabled to be economically independent. You have talked about how we need to ease the movement of youth from one country to the other, and we also appreciate your conversations with Ethiopian Airlines and all these other airlines you're having conversations and understandings with. I think to me that's an important cause. You're doing such an amazing job. Well done, Sita Sofo. We cannot thank you enough for that. Let me go back to my neighbor in the studio, and let's hear from John about how can the role of young people be recognized in Uganda, of course, but at the same time, we're not only looking at Uganda, but Africa as the scope. So what is the role of young people in driving entrepreneurship and economic growth on a general scale?
Like I said,
yes,
the young people's future is now.
Yeah.
There's no other future. So it is their role. They should be part of the policy discussions. They should be part of the implementation process. They should be at the forefront of all these discussions. They are the key players. It's their space. So their role is really recognized, and that is why when we talk to the African Union, like Sita has been talking about, the African Union acknowledges the fact that we, as them as the policymakers who are behind the policies in place, they are actually phasing out, but they need a generation next. They need someone to carry on all their future plans. And now it is the youth. Like I said, Ikoyaka, for example, it's a continental chapter. It has brought very many youth. Every day we still recruit youth as champions, country champions, to be part of the discussions. The FCFTA Secretariat has Ikoyaka as its advisory council. So they consider its contributions, its suggestions, they are very relevant in these discussions, but also the way the agreement is designed, it is addressing the actual issues that have been raised by the youth. And what the African, despite what Sita said that it is only 3 years old, but we've never seen Africa being vibrant in collaboration. We have seen Africa open up. I am part of a think tank, an African integration think tank, and we are about 500 participants in that think tank, and it is people from all over Africa. It has been an eye-opener that actually we can work together. We can do this together. But like we say, the role of the youth cannot be ignored because Africa, the biggest population of Africa, is the youth below the age of 30 to 15. Uganda, for example, out of 100%, the Ugandan population, 78% is youth below the age of 30. That is a very big population. That's a big number. So that means they play a very key role in carrying on trade, in carrying on politics, in carrying on economics, in generally running the country. So soon we shall have, a new youth president. Soon we shall, they'll be the drivers of all the policies.
That's right.
So they are very, very important and very key players in economic development. And that is why it is very necessary. We would be doing ourselves a disservice if we don't involve them. It's a disservice. It means we are going to be stagnant somewhere if we don't have them part, if we don't have their voice in. So what should we do, like Sita was saying? So what are the financial institutions in place? The banks, they should be now, and I've seen many banks, I've seen Stanbic put up incubation programs for the youth businesses, entrepreneurs, and these are the programs, this is how program work now should look like, having youth at the forefront. So how do we prepare them for this discussion like we talked about in institutions? How do we engage them? How do we make them appreciate? Appreciation is very key because it makes you love what you're doing, what you're going for. We have a number of CSOs that are behind business incubation and preparedness, and it is very important. Like this, I said, it starts at national level. We talk about trade and we are looking at regional integration, but I'm telling you, you're not going anywhere with rotten tomatoes. You're not going anywhere with your bad cabbages, or maybe you're in an IT industry. It should meet a certain standard. So how do we start to make the youth appreciate the issues of compliance, tax compliance, what is involved within tax compliance?
That's right.
What is Uganda Revenue Authority, for example, doing to support the youth? What taxes are in place? Are they supportive, or are they the kind of taxes that actually just push the young youth, the entrepreneurs, out of business? Are they the sort of frustrating taxes that they're putting in place? So what does the authorities, what does government put in place? What programs? Like Sita said, it should start with an enabling environment.
That's right.
That will push the potential, the economic potential of the youth to be able to explore their potentials. And they have all these potentials. They are very entrepreneurial, like we said. Again, this 78% of the population, about 60% is unemployed.
That's right.
So it risks us having youth that are very irrelevant, but also it brings an insecurity aspect. But now, how do you make them relevant? So this is how government should involve them, make them enjoy entrepreneurship. It's very important as well to understand what is tradable outside there. Now that Africa is collaborating, we need to learn what is needed in Nigeria, what can we export to South Africa, who is there to receive them. Again, the South Africans can know what they need to bring to the EAC, but also what is the process. It is very important for them again to learn because at the end of the day there are rules and regulations. How do you move through the trade corridors? How do you move through the customs procedures? So as well, we need to appreciate, educate the youth, let them understand their role, but it all begins with awareness and appreciation from capacity building. So they play a very key role in shaping the economic development of Africa.
Well said, Joanne. That was amazing. Thank you so much. I think she has emphasized strengthening the youth-friendly collaborations and partnerships that can help the young people to grow and develop themselves. And also, she has emphasized educating young people to learn the trade processes, because it's one thing to be involved in all these free trade area activities, yet you don't understand the process. So as young people, we need to understand the trade processes and also understand our role as young people. Ruben Tamba, if you're still with us online, we would like to engage with you on something very vital, and we would like to know how favorable can the economic taxes and subsidies be made for young people to invest in different sectors. But we want to understand issues like taxes, issues like other economic subsidies that have been so very limiting for young people. How can we make them favorable? How can we make taxes favorable for young people to be involved in trade, but at the same time also be involved in decision making? Ruben, we cannot hear you. I think you need to unmute.
Before we get into answering your question, permit me to throw a little bit of light on what my brother sister just said some few minutes back. You see, I belong to that class of young persons who will not want to paint government actions all black, because as I just mentioned, I am a Cameroonian and I'm the country director for Ikoyaka Cameroon, and I also own a Pan-African logistic company, which is today operating across 14 African countries. So I want to think that our governments are doing their utmost best, and youths have to trust themselves. We have to build a trust among ourselves and be able to carry ourselves along. I am proud of telling you that today, Ikoyaka and my company are doing well to establish 4 young persons in Lomé, Togo, which is part of Lomé, Togo, as you know, is a country in the ECOWAS sub-region, and we are moving youth from Central Africa and Nigeria to go set. So I don't understand what enabling environment we want to get from our various governments. So I think already the environment, the environment is there, which is a volatile situation. We just have to embrace those policies that work for us and move on. Because if we sit and keep on crying for things to be fine, to be fixed day in, maybe today, tomorrow, or next tomorrow, those things will never be fixed automatically. So we just have to keep pushing on till we get to that level where we are looking at. Because I want to explain to you, last year I traveled on land by road from Lagos to the Vrua border. I think Andrew, you should know that border. It's a border town. To be.
I think, Robin, your internet is a bit unstable.
Pardon? I didn't get you. Come again.
Your internet is a bit unstable, Robin, unfortunately, but you were mentioning quite important points. I do not know if you're able to hear us, Robin.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry, I'm on transit. I am on transit, so being a logistic person on transit, so I'm sorry for my network not. I was saying that we young persons have to develop trust among ourselves, and we have to be able to support ourselves in order for us to make it, because the AFCFTA has come to reduce the rate of unemployment we have in our African countries. And we think that if young persons are actually ready enough, they will stand a lot to benefit in this particular project. Because I don't see any country today in Africa where business is difficult to be done. Sincerely, for my traveling across African countries today and being present in 14 African countries today, I stand well placed to explain the fact that it's possible to do business across Africa. We just have to have the right mindset, and with the right mindset, meeting the right persons, we can easily go about our business without any issue. So I think today the environment is not very, very conducive, but business is thriving. Business is thriving, and young persons have to take advantage of that. As regarding your question on market, assessing market, it is quite very, very, very possible today for young persons to access market. We just need to gather information. We just need to meet persons who maybe have ideas of those particular destinations they want to venture, and those informations will be shared for them to easily get their way along. Because today my brother was talking of air costs being expensive and all of that, but there is a substitution to air, land movement. I just recounted my experience traveling from Lagos to the Vrua border on land. So if people don't have what it takes to pay flights, they can go on land. Most of us, I am a land person, so I can give you directives on how you can travel from land from East Africa and come to West Africa. So those things are possible. Let us not only be thinking about air, we must fly and all of that. Please, it's possible to travel on land. It's safe. Africa is safe. We should stop sharing information of Africa not being safe here and there or whatever. Please, Africa is safe, and young persons can move on land to go about their daily business. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Robin Tamba. I think you have had Robin very, very outspoken. And thank you so much for your contributions, Tamba. He's the country director of the African Continental Free Trade Area with very insightful ideas. And he has emphasized the area of us changing our mindset. Can we change our mindset as young people? I think it's important that I say this on Africa Youth Day. We need to change our mindset as young people and look out for bigger opportunities. Let's not be resource myopic. I think we need to be more involved and active in what we're doing. Boateng, if you're still with us online, I think we have something we want to share with you. If Kwasi Boateng could share with us on the challenges. What are those challenges that young entrepreneurs are facing when participating in cross-border trade? We have young people who are doing trade across borders, Mr. Boateng, but we want you to identify those challenges. What are those challenges that young entrepreneurs face whenever they are participating in cross-border trade?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Andrew. Yes, one of the challenges that we have in Africa when it comes to cross-border trade is, as you're aware of, currency challenges of currency. Trading in Ghana with the cedi, for instance, moving to trade in Nigeria, the naira, on their way to going, as my brother Ruben said, if you are to go by land, you may need to transact through Togo, through Burkina Faso. So there's going to be the discrepancy of funds, how to communicate a single currency. So that is one challenge that we have. We realize moving funds or in transacting business, there are different currency requirements and specifications, and then common one. The African Continental Systems, for instance, PAPS, which does a lot to do with harmonizing trade transactions. That's just one side. Another issue that we have are the issues at the borders. We all know what they are, especially with our women in trade in particular. They tend to have many challenges at the borders where sometimes you are told, for instance, or maybe probably in Uganda going elsewhere, these are the requirements to get beyond one border to the next. So many different questions, so many different requirements that are not, standardized, are not formalized. So that ends up frustrating the process. At times it can frustrate us. Because of various requirement specifications. And also we know there's a lot of corruption there. Sometimes, often, in fact, you tend to have the right documentation, you tend to have all the right information, you get there, but simply because someone wants their pockets a little greased, they will frustrate you until you come to the point, give them something. That is too common a trend in Africa. So a common currency for trade is a popular one. Issues at the borders, another very popular one when it comes to challenges that we have trading amongst ourselves in Africa. So I think my feed is my feed. Am I audible?
Okay, maybe my colleague here will just maybe address some of the solutions to something you have mentioned. Joan, he has mentioned, Boateng has mentioned, we have quite a number of issues at the border. What are those issues and how do we do away with them, Joan?
Yeah, he talked about issues of corruption.
Yeah.
And this is one of the biggest, it's the elephant in the room. The customs officials seem, I don't know if they don't know, but they seem not to know the provisions within these agreements that allow the informal cross-border traders, and usually in this category we have the women and youth. So you find that they subject them to tariffs. They seem not to know that this is free movement of goods and services. And under the provisions within the ESC agreement, for example, and the General Continental, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. It's under the simplified trade regime. It allows for informal cross-border traders as long as they do not get to a threshold of $1,000 USD to trade without stoppage, without and their goods not attracting any kind of tariff. And the customs officials don't seem to have knowledge about this. So even as we are talking about awareness creation, it is not just the private sector, but as well the customs officials, URA, they need to know what is entailed within these agreements so that they don't violate. So you find a number of violations, stoppages, they are faced with the number, and that pushes them to use now the porous routes because they are trying to dodge these tariffs. And again, Africa is categorized by primary products trading. That means they are mainly trading perishables. They are trading raw tomatoes. They are trading products that are due to expire, the agri-products they usually trade. So the challenge is that as they keep trading these primary products, they need to, it needs to be quick. They need to cross the borders quick so that by the time they get to the next buyer from a different country, their goods have not expired. So for them to have a quick process, they'll go through porous routes. And this subjects them to death. We've seen a number of women dying as they go through those. It subjects them to piracy, like he was talking about, their goods are stolen from them. It subjects them to rape, sexual harassment in these processes. So, it is very important as we move into this new market for us as well to educate the customs officials, but also to educate the actual traders to let them know that actually it is okay, it is your right. It is your right and you're protected. It is your right to go through the formal routes without being stopped. Once they stop you, at least call this helpline for help. So the moment that awareness comes in and they are aware, the moment your goods do not cost 3 million Ugandan shillings or 1,000 US dollars, you are allowed to cross these borders without being stopped for any tariff. You don't attract any tariff. So this is something that needs education. And then also the other challenge is the issue of currencies, exchange losses or exchange. As you move to Kenya, you need to change your money into Kenyan shillings. And you know, some of our currencies are really low. For Uganda, you will face, the value of the currency is low. So this challenge of the forex losses is actually discouraging and is also being an impediment to ease in trade. Another challenge that these cross-border traders are faced with is rejection from the different countries. We have, while we negotiate and we are open to trading, again, we should acknowledge the fact that through this trading is where most of the countries are actually making revenue. These taxes they've been collecting, they've been making revenue. So countries every day come up with new ways of bringing in a barrier. A tariff barrier that you know that a trader will face on the way. They'll tell them, you know what, now we don't need your milk anymore, or your potatoes don't actually meet the standard, or your maize doesn't qualify anymore. So you find trucks, a line of trucks on the border, and they've been stopped. They have their cargo, their maize cargo with them. So this has been quite a frustration for them. You find Sudan now has blocked, yet these are the people who actually ratified for free movement of goods and people, and they are the same people that are rejecting the goods. So you see those trade losses that keep happening have been very, very frustrating. And we talk about issues of financing. This is also another elephant in the room.
Very big.
To afford to move your products to another country, you should have a financial muscle. That's right. True. A certain amount of money. And you know, youth cannot afford accessing these finances because they lack collateral. They're still young, they are growing. They don't have the money. But what we encourage these youth to do is to work in groups. We have phased out of the area whereby because you are maybe an hibiscus agro-processor, you're adding, you have hibiscus juice. So you see another person trading, in the same business, and you see them as a competitor. It's about time for now businesses to work together. The only way to benefit from this regional integration trade is for them coming together as groups. That way they'll be able to address issues of financing. That way they will be able to address issues of quantities, because most of the time we don't meet the quantities, the need that is needed out there. So again, that pushes us away from trade. So to meet issues of quantities, we need to work as groups. So it's about time to create the cooperatives at national level, know and learn from and be aware of the youth in the same business with you, see how you work together, and then see how you explore into the markets in the different regions.
John, I think I should have you more often on this program, because you are giving me quite invaluable ideas. Thank you so much, Joanne. She has given us quite some solutions on what could be the challenges that young entrepreneurs are facing while participating in cross-border trade. Sita Sofo, I am told you are about to go into another meeting. meeting, and I think I should give you an opportunity to maybe address this before you go. I would like to know from you, Sita Sofo, what do you think about the importance of equipping young people with necessary skills and education on a general scale? What do you think what this could do for young people? And then you can also give us your closing remarks before you go, and then you wish well our young people, a very good young Youth Day celebration. I don't know what's going on in Ghana. I don't know how the youth in Ghana are celebrating today, but I believe that you will share with us, Sita Sofo. Over to you.
Thank you very much. And then, talking about be well equipped in terms of skills and training. To a team of technical students, that is Ghana. Development that they can take a lot of advantages when it comes to the STA. When our colonial masters left us, they didn't. One of the secrets they didn't give us was that skills development and training is very important. I can tell you that young Africans are proud to go to school to learn academic courses, political science, whatever. But we look down on people who are going to technical institutions, technical schools, learning how to sew, fashion and design, mechanical engineering, building technology, and those kind of skills. Tell you that that's the future, even if you those who are well paid. So we Africans, because of the nature of our economy, we see people trying, everyone wants to become a politician. Everybody want to talk, want to be a lawyer, want to talk big, and then you want to lead. That is all we know. That is why we have a lot of leaders, or I don't even know what to say. We have a lot of leaders who are not impacting in our development now and even in our future. We've had leaders who make big promises when they come to power. And when they come to power, they do absolutely nothing. So that is the kind of the training that our students are offering in the various schools are not useful at the end of the day. I now to me telling me that a friend senator wants their daughter to come to Ghana to come and do a medical program because the school that she is studying in Nigeria, they are doing medicine. They are in level 300. That medicine and they don't have anything to practice with. So these are the real challenges. So this kind of doctor comes out. What is he going to do at the hospital if not kill people? So they wanted me to get a school in Ghana here where the student can come and learn. So I will not underrate the need for skill development and training for youth, because even after that, you don't wait for anybody to employ you. You can easily employ yourself, go into entrepreneurship, money, unlimited money, giving advantages. So it's very, very important for the youth of Africa to actually learn a skill. If not one, but multiple skills is very important in the 21st century. And every African youth has to know that multiple skills is very important. If one is not paying, another one will pay you. So this is what I have to say on the question that you asked me. Now I'm going to react a bit to what Ruben was talking about, that if I'm talking about air, there's land. Where is land travel across Africa? What are we talking about? The fact that you can drive your car from Cameroon to Nigeria to Ghana does not mean that if I'm going to do commercial trade, I want to move my goods, I can easily get full load of vehicle and pass through all these borders from Ghana. It is not feasible. Right now, the road infrastructure, even within our own countries, how good is road infrastructure? How much more interconnected roads that we have in Africa? I had a company who wanted to distribute buses, cross-continental buses, over 100 buses And I also had another company that's from Brazil that was ready to supply buses to Africa. But I can tell you that one major challenge we faced was the road infrastructure. So until those things are ironed out, I have personally also traveled. I just went because of the experience. I'm leading a lot of youth and I'm talking on behalf of youth. I cannot be an academician. I have to be practical. I've traveled from, let's say, Ghana to Lagos. I passed through Togo, the Lomé talking about. I passed through Benin. I've gone to Lagos. I've gone by road from Lagos to Abuja, 12 hours, 13 hours. When I could just take 1 hour flight to Lagos or 1 hour from Abuja to Accra. I am telling you that the frustrations to the extent that we get to a flower border, we have to cross, carry our things, go to the next car, take it, get to Benin border, cross it, go to Benin, Nigerian border. We have to take another car, we have to pay bribes, and about 100 stops, if I don't, about 100 stops, even from Benin to Nigeria. Everybody will put something, everybody will put something. Let's talk about the realities. Now you are telling us to trade among ourselves. What are we talking about? Everybody is taking something from you. I had one of our members who left from Nigeria to Ghana, and he got to a place in Benin. They seized his product, seized his car. He drove there, they seized his car. I called all the people I knew before they were able to release him to leave Benin, but he has already slept there to Ghana. So I know flight is safer, and majority of our movement across country is actually air, whether we like it or not. That is why they have one air project under the AFTA. And then these cargo airlines carried a lot of products and services across the continent. Even recently, President Paul Kagame said that a Rwandan airline was going to reduce tariffs for people who are doing intra-African trade and stuff. That is where he can start from. So I will just leave that one there because I'm trying to wrap up. I have another equally important engagement. So the African leaders are like elephants. But before I also like your idea that, yes, let's not compare our bits with what is available. That is what we have to do. We can, we have, where we, what African youth have to do. And all this I'm saying this because I've interacted with a lot of African youth, and you should know that from different African countries, I'm widely traveled, you know, and I've engaged a lot of African youth. So I know exactly what I'm talking about. So African governments are like elephants. African Union is like, AFCA Secretary is like an elephant. And if you want to instruct the elephant, you don't shout at the elephant. You have to shoot at the elephant. Tell the president of Ghana something. If I was telling him, like on a personal note, he will not mind me. But if I'm telling him on behalf of the lot of African youth, even the Ghanaian youth that are following our federation, he would want to listen. So, yes, we still need to speak to them. They need our advice. They need our input. We have to push. I've gone to after Secretary Home. To the youth committee because of what I've been doing. So I want everybody to understand that this year's team is actually pertaining to unlocking youth potentials in Africa for economic growth and development, because we are the future and the future is now. And we have to carry the vision to the next generation. So the team, the African Union team for celebration of today or celebration of this year's event is knocking. Youth-led movements that transcend is knocking on that transcend. This underscores the power and influence of youth-led initiatives that reaches beyond national boundaries to drive positive change. This is the team using for this year's celebration. It's a call that the African Union already knows the huge potential that African youth we have enrolled. Coming with the 1 million women and youth financial and economic inclusion project, where by 2030, the next 7 years, about what they want to take them out of abject poverty into riches. They want to move them from economic dependence to economic independence. And this movement is coming to Uganda, it's coming to Ethiopia, it's coming to Ghana, it's coming to Cameroon, it's coming to Nigeria, it's coming to all the youth of Africa, and everybody needs to be aware of it and take advantage of it. So 7th of this month, yes, I'll be speaking in conjunction with some other dignitaries, and I know Kwesi Chetu will be present at the program. We are going to speak at the After Secretariat. We're going to celebrate the day officially. We're going to focus on entrepreneurship is the way to go here in Accra, Ghana. So I'm also using this opportunity to invite everybody to take part in the program, get to know more about the next level that we are talking about. And I want to specifically thank Clinton, and I want to thank Mr. Andrew too for pulling together this very educative program, because I believe that the voice we are talking about, the youth voice, this is actually the youth voice. And I believe that every youth in Africa is listening and joining this program, because I saw that the link was shared, also shared with some other people. And even after this program, a lot of youth are going to listen to this educative program. And I believe that Smart 20 can transcend, if able to transcend beyond Uganda, beyond East Africa, to reach the corners of Africa. And this is the dream that we want. We want our voice to be heard. Our cries are going to be listened to. We also have a saying in our language, I'm going to end with this, that if your stomach is paining you and you don't shout, nobody will know that your stomach is paining you. So if the youth, we are suffering, we need change, we need talk about it. I shared this thing with the team from the African Union. I shared it with them, and I hope they also get to know of the good works that Smart 24 TV is doing. And I want to thank all the viewers for making time, the rest of my colleague panelists for contributing wonderfully to these topics. Yes, we have to disagree to agree how it is. So on this note, I want to have the opportunity to thank the Africa Young Entrepreneurs Federation, all our members. I want to thank the youth of Africa. I want to tell them that there's light at the end of the tunnel, whether we like it or not, is at the end of the light. Somebody says, what if we get there, we don't see light? We have to get there, and we have to have hope, because once we lose hope, we don't have any other assets. Thank you very much.
Sita Sofo, for your contribution. I cannot thank you enough for being a part of this conversation. But before you go, Sita Sofo, I know you have a quick engagement, but before you go, one, we are requesting that you visit Uganda as well. We need you to come and also speak to other young people who would love to listen to your amazing ideas. And then secondly is that we would like to continue to work with you and engage you in more conversations like this. So I think working with Young Entrepreneurs Federation would be an amazing opportunity for us to continue to diversify our engagements for young people. Your message has been very clear, Sita Sofo. Your message is that we are the future, and the future is now. We don't have to think of the future being so far away. I think as young people, we need to mentally prepare ourselves to know that the future is now, and we need to take advantage of that. Thank you so much, Sita Sofo, for being a part of this amazing conversation. We shall engage with you more, because even on 7th, as you're speaking, we shall make sure that we log in and listen to your wonderful ideas. Thank you so much, Sita Sofo. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much, Sofo.
Thanks for having me.
I think let me continue with Reuben Tamba. I think Reuben Tamba is still online. If Reuben Tamba, you're still online, let's continue with our conversation. Sofo has left online now, but we can continue and continue to diversify some of the key issues. But with Reuben Tamba, I would want us to tackle the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is unlocking youth potential for economic growth in Africa. How do we do that, Reuben Tamba? How do we unlock the potential of young people for them to contribute to economic growth, especially in Africa and even in their nations?
Thank you so very much, Andrew. I think for us to be able to unlock young persons' youth potentials, it is through sensitization and education. We will not stop emphasizing on education and sensitization, because we know that is the only gateway where young persons can access information. Because we want to know that it has been keeping young persons back for them to fully be involved in the implementation of FCFT is the lack of information. So we are struggling to actually curb that. We are doing our utmost best in our various organizations, youth organizations like ICOYACA, like other young initiatives to keep sensitizing young persons to know that the time is now. The time now. A new job Africa. Let all of us our hands on deck to make Africa great and great again. So we just keep on educating our peers so that they traveling from Ghana to Nigeria, or from Abidjan or from Senegal to Nigeria by road is not really going to be an easy walkabout. But because of what we are going to achieve, where we are going to, we just have to put on the sacrifices and make our way through. Because nothing will ever be easy. Nothing is going to ever be easy, and having that at the back of the head, I think will be good. So we will continue educating youth, we will continue sensitizing them, and letting them know that the time is now for them to join the train, so that together we can make Africa great. Thank you.
That was well executed. You have actually pointed out some of the key areas I wanted to ensure that I emphasize on. One of them is youth unemployment. We still have a big challenge of youth unemployment, not only in Uganda, but all, of course, across African nations. And Boateng, if you're with us, how do we address or how do we reduce youth unemployment as the major challenge that is affecting young people? But also, how do we create job opportunities in various sectors and services for young people?
Yes, thank you, sir. When we talk about youth unemployment in the era of the AFCFTA, we have to understand that the AFCFTA is massively for the private sector. So that requires empowering the private sector. The AFCFTA is supposed to boost entrepreneurship, to boost SME establishments all throughout Africa. So gone are the days now, or it should be gone now, where the average person goes to the university, finishes the university, and is spending the rest of his days looking for government work that will give him just enough for the month, barely at times for the month. So we should now be looking to educate to go into entrepreneurship, to go into startups. So therefore, it's now the role of the governments, both on the state level and the regional level, to seek to empower SME startups or entrepreneurship in the
You could refresh your internet, Mr. Boateng, but maybe we could continue as we wait for your internet to be stable. And maybe over to John, just right next to me. How do we continue to reduce youth unemployment, and how can the African Continental Free Trade Area contribute to this?
I think Sita talked about it strongly. Skills learning is very pertinent. As we educate, the academia, like we go to schools, learn the biology, sciences and what. But there's something we call skills. Skills lead us to entrepreneurship quite a lot. And you'll find that the people in fashion and design can make money every day on a daily basis. So how do we explore skills learning And here, the government has really put much effort in this area, and I would really like to thumbs up government in this area. We have seen it now on the curricula for all secondary schools. There should be a skills program there. Maybe tailoring, maybe foods and nutrition. These are very important skills, and that is where entrepreneurship starts. Then the other, it all starts at national level. To explore into regional integration, it starts right where you are within your country. Yeah. How do we again educate the youth about compliance? Compliance is very pertinent. Now we are just in the beginning. We are starting off. We are at the beginning stage. The AFCFTA is still very young. Yeah. So we are at the initial stage of the AFCFTA. Okay. But it's going to get to a time whereby you will not cross the borders if you are not formal. Yeah. That means your business should be registered. Yeah. And we should appreciate all these formal processes because they are very pertinent. Yeah. And these are the reasons why we find the barriers as we cross over with our goods. It's very important to comply to the standards. Now we have Fair Trade Africa coming in this whereby it is encouraging sustainable trade, but inclusive and fair trade. Yeah. How can you carry out sustainable trade? And one of them is standard compliance. Again, standards start right at the initial stage from the outgrower. When you're planting, what chemicals are you using? Are they safe? It starts from that appreciation of agrochemicals you're going to use, of the seed you're going to use, if it's not contaminated. Now it goes to the way you're harvesting, post-harvesting. Are you harvesting your products in a proper way? Then now when it goes to processing, as you process, isn't there any contamination? So all these stages, standards should be met through the value chain. And the moment a youth trader is aware that this is how I am supposed to carry my product to ensure that it is safe for trading, then that will be the beginning of appreciation. And again, that will unlock the potential. Because even if you engage in business, or you're an agro-processor, or we are talking about entrepreneurship, you are designing a dress probably, you're in fashion and design, and you want to sell it off to Nigeria. Even a dress has a standard. So every product that you're taking out there, or that you're going to exchange out there, it should meet a certain standard. So we are supposed to be aware of the standards that are needed within these markets. And as well, we should prepare ourselves to be able to meet those standards. So it's very important now, and I've seen a number of CSOs and as well government, and we've seen banks explore into business incubation programs. And these ones prepare, they educate the business people on how to prepare their businesses, make them export ready, so that at the end of the day you'll not meet a stoppage. You'll have your product go to any country with ease. Even if you decide to trade out of Africa, it is still at ease. So as we go into regional integration, what are the actual issues we need to explore into? And that's where the conversation should start. What are the safe agro products or agrochemicals or fertilizers that the outgrowers need to use? And government as well should be very instrumental in this area to make sure that they remove the counterfeits off the market. Because now we are into an era whereby we need fertilizers. We have gone into modern farming. We need modern ways of farming. What are the climate smart practices? All this education. Since Africa is mainly an agro producer, that means we mainly trade our agri products out there. So it's very pertinent for us to be aware of the climate smart practices that we need to employ into. And this education, the youth need it. The youth need it because, again, they need to be made to appreciate that actually it is through agriculture that we shall grow our Africa. That is our leverage. It is our comparative advantage. How do we interest the youth in trading within agriculture, agri-products?
That's right.
So those are the pertinent subjects, helping them understand where we have a comparative advantage. Where do we stand strong as Africa? Yes? And then how do we work together to ensure that we penetrate all these markets? Then what do we need to do? Standards compliance is still a challenge for most of the MSMEs, women and youth. But we need to love it. We need to explore
and embrace it as well.
And see how we prepare our businesses and our products to make sure that they are export ready for all the markets. So that is as well very, very important.
Very important.
And very important for the potential of youth. Then something else we talked about, what is tradable out there. It is very important for us to learn in the ESC market, what does Kenya need? It is a bit challenging for Africa because we mainly have the same products. You find Kenya has an influx of tomatoes and Uganda has the same. You find Uganda has pineapples and Kenya as well. So we find that the trading within the ESC will become a bit challenging because we are trading the same products. So that is where you'll find barriers because people want to protect their national markets, they want to protect their farmers, so they put stringent, barriers to sort of protect their farmers, reduce their imports, food imports within their countries. But I mean, we are working not just as the ESC, we should be looking at different tracks. We should be looking at SADC, we have ECOWAS in place. So how do we ensure that we understand what is needed in these different regional economic communities that we can take advantage of and that we can participate in? So all this knowledge the youth need, it is still something where we need so much preparedness, where we need a lot of information, we still need learning, and it starts at national level. Yes, we should be right there learning so much to understand how to penetrate the different markets that are available. Yes.
For those listening to Joanne, I mean, I'm just enjoying every moment I'm here next to Joanne. She's teaching me quite a lot, and especially when it comes to the mindset that we need to carry as young people. I've been informed that Dode Saidu is online, the Chief Executive Officer of Africa Trade Academy. Can we just hear an introduction from you, sir?
Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Greetings from Accra, sunny Accra. I'm happy to join the discussion. Heard a lot about all from the previous speakers, and I think it's a very, very exciting discussion. If I can add a few words, so into the previous speakers, I think I want to categorize the opportunities for young people in two ways. The first one is in the tradable skills. Young people have certain skills that are tradable, especially under the services trade of the AFCFTA. In services trade, we are talking about at least 4-5 main sectors in which young people have competencies and can develop even more enhanced and these services. So if we talk about service, we're talking about capabilities that we provide to help with the movement of goods. So for example, those in the business and professional services. So if you are an accountant, a lawyer, if you are in your services throughout the continent, and you don't need to be limited by geographic barriers or any other limitation, except that you'd have the skill. So if you have the skill as an architect, as a lawyer, as a professional, you can trade in that. ICT services, so those young people who are ICT savvy can take advantage of the AFCFTA and other regional trade policies to be able to export their services. The third one is in financial services, those in fintechs, those who are providing financial solutions, software development for e-commerce. You can provide that service across the border. The third one is in the area of travel. So travel and tour operations. That is a huge opportunity for services trade under the AFCFTA. The fourth one is in transport. So if you provide transport services, that is another one that you can. So I'm saying that young people can develop tradable skills in these areas to be able to engage effectively and take advantage of the African market. I wouldn't even necessarily say the AFCFTA, but African market as an opportunity for you as a young person. That would be one. Now, beyond these tradable skills, the other area we can take advantage of is in the context of building capacity. So I think Ruben Tamba did speak about that there, building the skills. Now, when it comes to trading services, you need to build yourself in certain skills, in the knowledge areas that have been mentioned. So, for example, the lady in the studio mentioned Standard. Standard is a service you can provide, even to be part of the AFCFTA. So there are farmer groups that need somebody to organize them, to help them meet their certification, to help them meet their standards. That is an opportunity for you. Then, of course, we can look at the AFCFTA's core areas of as well, which is what Africa Trade Academy exists for. I'll pause here, and if there are any specific questions, I'll take them. Thank you.
Those were very invaluable contributions from your area. Before we come back to you, Dode, I think one of our colleagues, Kwasi Boateng, has another meeting as well. And let me take this opportunity to just share with you, Boateng, something very small, and then we let you go for another meeting. And I think to me, Boateng, if you're still online, we want to know what is the significance of small and medium-sized enterprises, especially those youth-led small medium enterprises. What's the significance of having them in place, but at the same time also being successful, so that young people get to see the birthdays of these businesses and small medium enterprises? What's the significance, Mr. Boateng? And then you can also give us your closing remarks, and then we can take it up from there.
Yes, please. Thank you so much. When it comes to small and medium-sized enterprises, you see, these are mostly the private enterprises that are doing more than most in solving problems that we cannot rely on African governments to solve yet because of either capacity issues or timing issues or funding issues. When we have these small, medium-sized enterprises going about their way, supporting their societies, creating solutions to problems, it's important to support them. For instance, we have the foundations like the Tune Melu Foundation, which do a lot to not just build, but teach you also how to manage the resources. We have in Nigeria, there's UN Nigeria, there is African Tech Foundry, Science Africa, Yali, African Development Foundation, who do much to empower these organizations, because in Africa, the private sector must lead. Even in more developed regions, the private sector still leads. So when it comes to empowering them, there is no two ways about it. The AFCFTA is for the private sector, largely for the private sector, or to build private sector, because these are the people who carry the capacity to employ. We cannot rely in Africa on governments to employ everyone. It's quite absurd. We have to rely on the private sector to create jobs and to identify problems that governments will deal with all too slowly, and therefore empowerment of those SMEs is quite fundamental. In my conclusion, I want to draw a bigger picture. On the AFCFTA is the first step. As we know, it's the first step to regional integration. Let's pay attention to what has gone on in other regions. For instance, the most advanced level of regional integration is what we refer to as the political union. And only in the United States have they succeeded into the point of a political union. We tend as a regionally integrated place because they've been integrated for so long, but then they have succeeded in regional integration. The next level will probably be in the Europe, where we have the European Union right now. They have gone through their free trade area, they've gone through their customs union, gone through their common market. They are now at political union level. Africa is only now beginning its integration journey. It's only now beginning its integration journey. I think it was my brother Sita Sofo who was asked the opportunities of AFCFTA for Africa or for young Africans. And here's where we have to get it, because he gave the example, for instance, of how difficult it is to travel from one African city or one African country to another. For instance, the price of traveling from Ghana to Nigeria is crazy. Recently, I was in Europe, for instance. I traveled from, it was Madrid to Berlin. And I think I spent about 50 euros for a return trip. Now, the question is, why is it so cheap to travel between two relatively distant countries over there, and yet over here, it's so expensive? Even flying from one point of Ghana to another point of Ghana is so expensive. So why is that? And it's because when it comes to international trade amongst Africa, there really isn't, or there hasn't been much of a basis. Africa trades very little amongst themselves. African states have very little interaction. Where there is little trade interaction, cost of doing business, cost of interactivity between the two will always be high. The reason Africa is not only to make trade possible, it is here to make higher in all the possible interactions between African countries now possible. So, for instance, let me give an example of a problem. Let me concoct an example. In Ghana, for instance, we have two between ourselves presently. We do not have too many trade opportunities. And therefore, let's say there is a problem in Ghana today. It will concern Uganda little, or it will not be of too much concern to Uganda to intervene because the Ugandan economy is little invested in Ghana. Let's turn it around. Let's assume, for example, 50% of Uganda's cocoa comes from Ghana, as an example, and there is any kind of security appeal going on in Ghana. It now concerns the economy of Uganda to now come to the aid of Ghana. That is the security implication of AFCFTA for Africa. It interconnects our various economies. What is happening in Botswana concerns those in Egypt. So where we are now interacting, we realize that the cost of doing business amongst ourselves will reduce. It will begin to affect policy as well, because where there is now a lot of interaction between one state and the other, both states are now, it's the interest of both states to now reduce the impediments between their interactions. For instance, recently, Ghana and South Africa have come to an agreement whereby flying to each other's country is now easier. You don't really require a visa unless it's on entry. So there's that interaction simply because trade between Ghana and South Africa is increasing. AFCFTA wants to do that for all of Africa. All of Africa. See, all of Africa. So that's the point of the AFCFTA. It goes beyond just trading. It starts with trade. Trade is what makes a member of one country interested in the affairs of another country. Okay, so I'll leave at that end. I would like to thank Mr. Andrew for putting this together. I want to thank you for the time that we spent here. I'd like to thank the APN network and our director, Mr. Luisafo, for giving the opportunity to be here. And thank you so much all. And I wish you all a happy Africa Youth Day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Boateng. I think that has been very, very impactful, especially for those that are watching us. Boateng, we also look forward to your visit to Uganda. I do not know when the ticket will be ready for that, but we are waiting for you. Please, whenever you feel it's time for you to visit Uganda, give me a phone call, or you can call Andrew. We shall be at the airport waiting for you. But besides that, we are very excited with your contributions today. For those that have been watching us, I'm sure they have learned quite a lot lot from your contributions today. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. We also look forward to have more engagements with you, Boateng. We want to continue to have different conversations on different topics and different themes on how we can continue to enable young people to develop themselves, but at the same time also contribute massively to economic growth. So we are very appreciative of of your time and of what you have actually shared with us today. Thank you so much, Boateng. Have a blessed day, and I look forward to hearing from you anytime soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, now I will remain with Ruben Tamba and Dode Said online, together with Joanita and Nasuna with me in studio as we try to reach those conclusive areas for our conversation today. Those who are watching us, we are talking about how do we unlock youth potential for economic growth in Africa. There is quite a lot that we can do for young people, and that's what we are trying to discuss and see what are those solutions we can provide on Africa Youth Day. I'll take you back to Ruben Tamba. Ruben Tamba, I just want to share with you something small, and then we can share with Dode as well. And with Ruben Tamba, we just want you to maybe give us key highlights on what could be those challenges that young entrepreneurs are facing when it comes to accessing financial resources for their businesses, and what's the best way that the financial institutions can help us in mitigating this gap.
Thank you so very much, Andrew. The challenges of youth accessing finance is actually it's real, but we think young persons, we can help ourselves with that issue of finances, because if you look at what young persons actually spend on alcohol, for example, what they spend on cigarettes for those who smoke, and some other items I may not want to maybe mention here. That alone can act like a seed capital for whatever business you want to venture. So I think if a young person is serious in getting into business, and most especially intra-African business, there should be a level of seriousness and a sense of actually being engaged, because we think a level of self-esteem. The person will have to maybe gather. There is no banker who investing into a business, seeing that the business actually spur up and all of that. So it's a call I'm sending out to young persons. Let them be very, very much watchful on those things they spend their little resources on, so that they can save more and get into business. There are so many organizations out there who are ready to help those persons who are serious in business. But as I just mentioned, they will want to see how far you have gone. They will want to see that you have started the business actually, and the profitable business for that matter. So that's the little I can share as to funds generation.
Tamba, over to you, Dode Saidu. We want to ask you a few questions on how digital trade. We want to look at the potential of digital trade and e-commerce for youth in Africa. Do you think this is an area that is still virgin for young people? Because we know that this involves infrastructure development, and at the same time it also involves e-commerce regulations. So what is the potential? What do you think this can contribute to the young people in Africa? But we want to understand the potential of digital trade and e-commerce for young people in Africa. Are they utilizing this enough? Mr. Dode.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity and the question. So if you take the issue of e-commerce, or the opportunity that e-commerce presents, is very, very huge. is so huge that it is probably one of the key elements that could address some of the challenges we have already with the movement of goods. So e-commerce platforms, whether they provide the opportunity for people to purchase, for businesses to meet, and for goods to move from one location to the other, for me, what I would describe as the game changer. Given this opportunity, where does Africa at the very, very, very big opportunity of e-commerce? Number one, it is in Africa here that we invented what today we call mobile money, or I'm sure in East Africa you call it M-Pesa. That opportunity to send money via mobile networks. It is what's invented in Africa. Number two, we are leapfrogging in many, many ways to the opportunity to use digital tools to develop solutions to our problems. Just last week, I met a young company that is already using e-commerce digital tools to solve logistical challenges and access to finance in border trading goods. So young people have the opportunity to, number one, understand the unique challenges that Africa faces and use those challenges as a springboard to design a solution. So for example, a common challenge we have in Africa is tracking, for example. So when goods are moved from one place to the other, especially transit, the tracker, the driver of the truck will charge a huge sum of money, considering the fact that they may not return with goods. So, for example, they're moving goods from Mombasa into somewhere in Uganda, and are not sure they'll return with goods. So, how do you solve that problem? There may be somebody with goods in Uganda, but doesn't also know that there's a tracker. So, if somebody can match these two people, already there can be an opportunity for trade, and e-commerce will solve that problem. So, even at the farmer level, in West Africa, we have companies that are solving the problem of access to tractors and farm machinery through technology. So matching those who need tractors with those who have tractors. So some of these platforms can be very, very useful and can be a game changer in how solutions are found to the problems that we have. So I want to really, really say that for me, looking at where young people have built competencies in ICT, the kind of infrastructure that exists through M-Pesa solutions, through fiber optics and things like that, the e-commerce angle is huge. Of course, the challenges there include the issues of regulation, data localization, cybersecurity, which can be addressed by national authorities. But even with that, if they are not resolved, I think somebody can establish a company or a business that is trustworthy, that provides logistics solutions, that provide payment solutions, that provides all the solutions that is there along the value chain of trying to import or export. Thank you very much.
I think maybe while you're still online, Mr. Dodesay, I think continue and give us your closing remarks. I'm told you also have another meeting. Please, I think for the gentleman online, let me give you an opportunity to give us closing remarks. What message do you have for young people considering today's Africa Youth Day celebrations? What message do you have for young people and what would you want them to carry on?
Thank you very much, Smart TV, the opportunity once again. So young people, I would say that have the opportunity to build themselves. I think sometimes as young people, we are in a hurry when we hear of an opportunity to reap the benefits. The AFCFTA, like Mr. Boateng said before, just at the beginning, if you prepare yourself as a business, as an individual, understand what it takes, begin to make connections, begin to meet people, understand the opportunities, the constraints to those opportunities, how to overcome them. You begin to see how you can leverage and unravel some of the challenges and then take advantage of the opportunity. So I would say that yes, it's an opportunity, but it is not going to be a free fall. So you must work it out, you must leverage it, and then you can be able to do it. I recommend that everybody should look at their national opportunities, regional opportunities, and then look at the AFCFTA opportunities. So start with Uganda, go to EAC and come to ECOWAS and go AFCFTA. Thank you very much. I want to thank the organizers, Andrew Otieno, yourself, esteemed moderator, and my co-panelists for the opportunity to be on this platform.
Coming to Uganda today.
Thank you.
Anytime soon?
Sorry?
Dode, are you coming to Uganda anytime soon?
Sure. I'm looking forward to coming to Uganda. One of my first people at Uganda I met, she's a customs officer. I think she's now based in the World Trade Customs Organization. She came to help Ghana on an aspect of customs. I really believe in African collaborations, and I'm looking forward to an exchange.
Sure. We look forward to your arrival to Uganda, Dode. We cannot wait, but also thank you so much for joining us on such a short notice. We know you are a very busy man and occupied, but we cannot thank you enough for your presence and joining this conversation. I can assure you that you have contributed to so many young people who are watching us today, and thank you so much, Dode, and have a great day. I look forward to engaging with you on more initiatives in the future. Thank you so much, Dode. Have a blessed day.
Thank you. I wish the same. Thank you. Bye-bye.
To Robin Tamba, I think it's also, let me give an opportunity to give us your concluding remarks to young people. What message would you want young people to carry on, and can you please share with us how young people in Ghana are celebrating the Africa Youth Day? Ruben, your sound is not.
Thank you so very much, Smart TV. I wish to this opportunity to extend my gratitude to the management of Smart TV. What I will say as my concluding remarks are that such programs have to continue. If we must have to hit the target and get our peers out there to be part and parcel of the AFCFTA, then we have to continue such programs. And please, I will be readily available anytime I am contacted to be part of such a program, so that together we can continue with the capacity building. We can continue to draw our peers together for us to put hands on deck and contribute our own little quarter for the implementation of the AFCFTA. So please accept my gratitude. I'm so grateful. I'm so happy that I was chosen to be part of this very important program. And as I've said, my gratitude to the management and to all young persons out there. Please don't give up. You can reach out to persons like us. My names are Ruben Tamba on all social media platforms, be it Facebook, be it LinkedIn, be it Twitter. And you can always contact me on info@ubbrema.org. info@ubbrema.org. Last year, I did my utmost best to visit Uganda, but I had a very discouraging situation at the level of the Vrua border post, which is the border post between the DRC Congo and Uganda, because I met with the Ugandan Immigration Service at the border, who, according to her, was my first time visiting Uganda, and I had to fly in. So, but I asked her, where is that particular clause written that visiting Uganda at your very initial stage, you have to fly in through the Edibe airport? So those are signs of some persons not wanting to accompany young persons to be able to meet their dreams. So I took that, I didn't actually welcome that, and I had to write to the Ugandan Immigration Service, which up to this moment, I'm still waiting for a reply. So I think we have a lot of work to do. That is why I will keep on pleading that we continue with such engagements, so that the information can reach the clans and reach our local and very, very interior parts of Africa, so that young persons and well-meaning Africans can take grip of that and accompany the implementation of the AFCFTA. Thank you so very much, and I look forward to still visiting Uganda so that together with young persons over there, we can put ourselves together and see how we move Africa ahead. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ruben Tamba. Thank you for joining us today. I'm very sure that young people who have been watching Ruben Tamba they have even taken note of your social media handles, Ruben Tamba. So I believe they'll be in touch with you and find out more on what you're doing. But the great work that you're doing there in Cameroon, thank you so much, Ruben Tamba. Young people there, I'm sure they are very, very supportive of the work you're doing. You're doing such an amazing work. So thank you so much. For this conversation, your work, your contributions have been very, very supportive and impactful. So thank you so much, Ruben Tamba. I look forward to engage with you on more ways of how we can, unlock youth potential, but even on a different scale, on even different platforms. I want to engage with you more. I want to know you more, Ruben Tamba. Your contributions today have made me very happy. Thank you so much. Smart 24 TV, thanks you so much. Thank you and have a very good day, Ruben Tamba.
Thank you so very much. I am any day. As I just mentioned, there are some young persons I am with them to Lome Togo for them to extend of their company, and I'm very much to work with any young person who is like-minded to our plea for the implementation of the AFCFTA. I am ready, available any day, any second. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Ruben Tamba. Thank you and have a very good day. All right. For those watching us, we had quite a number of guests online that have shared quite a number of key areas that can help young people, especially in Africa, to unlock their potential and contribute positively to their different nations. Well, I believe that for every young person who is celebrating this day, those who have been able to tune in and watch us, thank you so much. I know that there is quite a lot that we have been able to unlock for you, especially when it comes to cross-border trading and all those areas that look at small, medium enterprises. We are still discussing. I'm still having a very good conversation with my colleague here, Joanne. Before, of course, we conclude this very program, I believe that she has a few remarks for young people, but maybe, Joanne, before we even conclude this program, Dode, the Chief Executive Officer of Africa Trade Academy, mentioned that young people must network. Young people must look out on the area of knowing more people in their lives, and this can help them to form partnerships, can help to have good collaborations, and if they can do this, then this can help to spread the net for opportunities, but at the same time also develop them individually. So what do you say about the networking kind of concept for young people? Do you think it's important that young people should attend events, young people should put themselves out there for them to be seen, recognized, and you can never know what they can tap into?
Thank you so much, Clinton.
Yeah.
And yes, of course, collaboration is very pertinent. What I have really learned from Dode is that where there's a challenge, there's also an opportunity.
That's right.
He talked about cyber insecurities or cyber security. And then he said, but you can build maybe a software that supports to address these issues. He said that the youth as well can track their goods as they move through the trade corridors.
That's right.
And you see, tracking has been a challenge because somewhere, like you said, we mainly trade perishable goods. So you need to know how far is your product moving or how fast it is moving. But now he said, you can use the phone because, the youth are the biggest users of cell phones and biggest users of internet, but how are they actually using internet?
That's right.
It's very pertinent. How do they now appreciate that they can actually use this internet to benefit themselves for development? So these collaborations are very pertinent. And this is what regional integration is offering us. like I said, the AFCFTA is still very young, but you see, you have opened up. You're hosting guests from all over the continent, and we are starting this collaboration. Ikoyaka is a continental chapter of the youth, and it has so many youth that have enrolled and cooperating and having discussions together. And this is the way to go. How do we learn from each other?
Yeah.
How do we, get, an idea from someone and build on it? But also, you see, you might have an idea, something very innovative that might not really be appreciated in the Ugandan community.
That's right.
But very appreciated in the Ghana community. And the only way you can learn that it is actually good for the Ghanaian community is through collaborations.
That's right.
So as we start these discussions, learning from each other, but also appreciating that we are not actually a different person, but we are one Africa.
Yeah.
We should start from identity that we are Africans, we are working together, and then from those collaborations we shall grow, because like we said, we as youth are still low on finances.
Yeah.
But when we come together as groups, we can work around finances. You can bring your package and then collect it with the other. And in that way, you're able now to afford transportation, crossing your goods. You can grow your business. You can afford to address issues of small quantities. You can be able to address issues of meeting standards compliance, improving the quality of your goods, all those things, and those all happen through collaborative working. But if you know that out there's someone in Ghana who can give you information about what is needed in Ghana, that means you have started, you have opened up to a bigger market, a bigger collaborative market. And the only way, the reason why we talk about free movement of goods and services is because it brings in the ideology of working together, us being able to grow. The reason you're growing is because you're able to earn from Ghana. You're able to earn from somewhere in Kenya. So as you get that money, it leads to economic development. Yes. Yeah. But again, now that you are talking about digital impact.
Yeah. And e-commerce.
There is still very low utilization of digital platforms by the youth. Youth are using social media for entertainment. Yet they are very good platforms for showcasing businesses, for showcasing different products. Interaction like this, you can offer services like the ICT services we're talking about. So there's so much to explore into e-commerce. And e-commerce is mainly driven by the youth. Internet is mainly driven by the youth.
People.
And this is really what Dode said, that e-commerce, targeted skills. What are the targeted skills? And I feel youth have the knowledge. They have a way with internet and social media, and if they use this to grow businesses and to trade and to showcase and to offer services out there, I feel that it is a very good area, comparative advantage right now for the youth that they can really explore into. They can do so much. They can market themselves, or they can actually be the marketeers of other businesses.
That's right.
So how you start small, you start with what is available. How do you use your phone to grow you? So how do you benefit from internet? You start with what you have, and then maybe you grow into more entrepreneurial ideas. So that is where, again, the youth should look into.
I like that. You start with what you have.
Start with what you have.
I like
you
that.
have your phone. What can you do with your phone that can be beneficial?
In other words, we have to use the available resources.
The available resources, and to explore and to grow into the AFCFTA. Put yourself out there. Somehow you'll find someone in Ghana communicating, and that's how the network grows.
Wow.
It's very important to grow networks.
Wow.
Yes.
No, it's important to grow networks. And maybe just one last question for you, Joanne, is on gender inclusivity. How do you think the African Continental Free Trade Area can empower young women to be part of trade and entrepreneurship at the same time?
empowerment starts from involvement. It should start at policy level, government level. They should trust that actually these young women or the people at the grassroots level have something they can contribute to a policy you're putting in place. You're putting a policy in place to address someone at the grassroots, but you haven't involved them. Start at local government. It's very important. And the moment you design a policy that speaks to a challenge someone's facing, that means there is no reason for us to go back to that policy and redesign it.
There is no reason.
And that is gender inclusion.
Absolutely.
That means that policy acknowledges the challenges this person is facing, and the policy is designed to address that challenge. So have their voices. Create platforms like this. Bring them. They're very interested. They will tell you very interesting issues that you actually were not aware about, and maybe those that you can actually address. But because you don't know, because you're keeping them away from the actual process, yet you're supposed to include them. So that is, gender inclusion means have the marginalized included. It's more of the affirmative action. They should equally participate in all the policy processes, in policy shaping, but as well as implementation. So it is very important to ensure that even as you implement, the actual beneficiaries are benefiting from the policies that you put in place to create an enabling environment. So it's very important for government always to go back to check, do a background check to see if the policies are actually being implemented, do a background check from the actual beneficiaries to see if they're enjoying the policy in place. And that way it helps you to go back to the drawing board, to reshape, to redesign, and to address the challenges.
Nice. Actually, those are very key areas. All right, for those who are watching us, we are about to come to the end of this amazing program as we continue to celebrate young people in Africa. But Joan, maybe before we conclude, how did you celebrate days like this, really, when you were in your youthful days? I would want to know so that I can maybe get a way of celebrating such a day. I've already celebrated it by having such an amazing conversation with you and those who are online. But how do young people literally celebrate a day like this?
To celebrate a day like this, you need to be honest with yourself. As a youth, sit and reflect of how far you have moved as youth.
I like that. Self-assessment.
Self-assessment is very pertinent. Yes, today is African Youth Day, but how does it impact on me? What is my contribution as a youth? Is there any role you're playing? Or how do you, like you said, I think we put the blame on government too much, but how do we as well penetrate into those spaces? If you're not allowed in, force yourself in. Find a way of getting into those processes. Tell them, I am here. I have something to contribute to. So it's very important on these days for the African youth to reflect on how far they've moved as youth, because they'll not be youth forever. Your youth today, you're not there tomorrow. So again, set targets. You give yourself that, by the time I'm 35, I should have achieved this. I should be in this area. But again, it's not too late for those who have not achieved. Yes. So it's never too late to start. This market is still very young. It's in its initial years, 3 years. But you see, let's take advantage. It's an opportunity for us. Then ask yourself how you can penetrate into this market. How can I benefit? How can I engage in the discussions? Now trading is still low under the AFCFTA, and even Uganda as well has not yet commenced actual trading. But building the knowledge, helping people be aware and building the capacities is very important, because by the time we start off, it means we are ready, we are prepared to go in, rather than rushing the process and then at the end of the day you're meeting so many challenges and blockages. So Entrust yourself with the information. Entrust yourself with this trade information. You know, let's borrow ideas from the EU market, EU integration. It has really worked. What is there to learn from them? What can you do? Like we said, start with what you have. Yeah, it's never too late. You know, motivate yourself.
Yeah.
I think youth are very impatient. Be patient with that little business of yours. Don't allow it to collapse within a year.
Yeah.
Be patient with it and see how you can better it and expand it. Yeah, so that way, I feel that this day should be celebrated as a youth through self-reflection and as well assessing your contribution towards the economy and the political era and so much.
Wow, wow. You people, for those who are watching us, being with Joy is very, very exciting. And you get to learn so much from her mentorship. So I think to me, this has been a very, very insightful conversation. For young people, Joan has advised that the best way we can celebrate this day is through self-reflection and self-assessment. Assess ourselves and know what can we do to make ourselves better. So next year, when we are celebrating the same day like this in 2024, we have